Welcome to the How Good It Can Get podcast, where we dive deep into the transformative journey from surviving to thriving. Join me, your host, Andrea Rice, on this empowering exploration of mindfulness, spirituality, and unlocking your full potential. Let me show you just how good it can get. Hello and welcome back to How Good It Can Get. I am your host, Andrea Rice, and I am super excited about today's episode because I've been talking about it for a couple weeks. It's a very special episode about how healing doesn't have to take a long time. So I have a special guest today, Wes Coons. You know him from Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad, and also his new book, 15-Minute Transformation. Wes, thank you so much for being here today.
Andrea, thank you for having me on the show. What a privilege it is. And I'm excited about this. This is going to be fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit about how we both believe that healing doesn't have to take years, right? Sometimes it does, but it can happen very quickly, sometimes in just a minute. And I want to share a little story about what convinced me of that.
Sure, I want to hear it. That's for sure.
So I heard this story about, let's say you're just walking down the street, regular day, but you're kind of in a bad mood. You know, that is a regular day.
Yeah, that never happens.
So you're walking down the street, you're in a bad mood, you're like, life is terrible, all this stuff. And then someone comes up to you and they're like, you just won the lottery. Right?
Yeah.
Tell me your whole body, right? Your whole mindset, every cell in your body would in an instant change, right?
It would instantly change, yes.
Because all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I was just depressed and sad and like everything's terrible. But now, now you're excited. The adrenaline is rushing.
Yep.
And that was to me a very significant story because I'm like, yes, I can see how that would happen. I mean, I've even had that on a very small scale, like you're having a bad day and then you get like this text from a friend or a call from a friend you hadn't heard from for a while, and all of a sudden your mood just changes.
Sure. Well, I think a lot of people can experience that in the opposite as well. You get a phone call from the bank and you bounce 10 checks because somebody got into your bank account. I've had that happen before.
That's not fun.
It's not fun. That will change you in a second, won't it? So it's just the opposite is what we're talking about, is changing your mindset to a new level, raising your vibration instantly, and shifting your day.
Yeah, so it can happen very quickly. And I want to talk a couple of instances that I read about recently. If you know about Deepak Chopra, quantum healing, he does a lot of talking in that particular book about spontaneous recovery, right? And you've heard of spontaneous recovery.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's the old story that it takes forever to heal is a lie. It just is. We don't have to do that. And so it's interesting that we're looking at these books, we're looking at these healers and these organizations that are talking about shifting our thought process to healing instantly. I love it.
Yeah, I love it because, you know, I think when you talk about healing and people want to transition from where they are right now to maybe a better version of themselves that they can see, but they're not quite sure how to get there, that it seems daunting when you think, oh, it's probably going to take me a long time, right? But it doesn't always have to. And I want to talk a little bit about just one specific story in the Quantum Healing book by Deepak Chopra, and it was about a man who had a fast-growing lung cancer. And it would require surgery along with intensive treatment. And he told the guy, like, look, you know, this is fast-growing. It's like late-stage cancer. He never heard from the guy again until 8 years later. Okay, the guy shows up 8 years later, back at his office, unrelated thing.
Well, how does he show up 8 years later if he's got a fast-growing cancer?
Right, exactly. So he's like, hey, let me do some scans. Turns out he scans the guy's lungs, no cancer. And this is the type of cancer that would have killed 99.99% of untreated patients within a few months. But it did not kill this man. And 8 years later, he had no signs of cancer. He was back, and he was like, what happened?
Well, I bet the first thing that happened, he didn't claim his disease.
Exactly. That is exactly what happened. He said, nope, I don't need treatment. This is not my story.
Hey, you know, that happened to me.
I do. So will you share that story, Wes?
Yeah. You know, as a man, we have a prostate, and, you know, there are challenges with your prostate. They can do what's called a PSA test, and that's a blood test. And when your PSA gets over around 5, that's a danger zone. Over 18 months, they kept testing my PSA, and it got to the point where they shipped me over to the oncologist. And I remember thinking, I'm like, why am I going to the oncologist? Because nobody said the C word, and I don't say the C word when it comes to me. And so I went in there, and he says, oh, Mr. Coons, you've got stage 1 prostate. And I'm like, no, I don't. He says, oh, yes, you do. I said, no, actually, I don't. And he puts his hands on my shoulder. He says, you're in denial. I said, the fuck I am. I said, you're in denial. I'm not. I don't have cancer. We're not going to talk about it. And so he brought me in a few weeks later, ran all these tests. When I came back for the results, he said, all the tests previously were false, that this one was accurate.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I went from almost a 6 to less than 0.25%. And I said, so you're telling me all the tests from over 18 months were not accurate, but your test is? And he said, yes. I said, that or Jesus healed it. He said, that's an impossibility. That doesn't happen. I'm like, it does, because I never claimed it. I went into self-healing immediately. I worked with some of the healer friends that I had, and mysteriously it was gone.
That's amazing. And I do want to say right now, I know there are people out there right now who have cancer. I've lost friends and family members to cancer, and this is not meant as any kind of a disrespect to someone who passed away.
No, it's not. It's not. You know, going to the doctor is important. You know, paying attention to the doctor is important. However, our bodies can heal ourselves.
Yeah, and I think I wanted to start with these kind of examples, just as examples of how spontaneous recovery is possible. And that leads me into healing yourself as a whole, as mind, body, spirit. If it's possible with the body, if it's possible with your mind, with a moment of good news, then anything is possible. We are in so much control of our body and our mind that I think we forget about it sometimes.
We do. If you look at quantum work, they talk about there's no time and space, right?
Yeah.
So when we do quantum healing, I am a healer and I do quantum healing. So when I have my clients that I work with in India and Australia, in Germany, they know I'm working on them instantly. I have one client, when I work with her remotely, she can tell me, hey, you're touching my shoulder right now. At the very instant I'm touching her shoulder from the other side of the planet. How's that even possible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is.
It is possible.
It's happening.
Yeah. So our mind is more powerful than we believe. Our prayers are more powerful than we believe. And so we can connect with somebody on the other side of the planet. We can heal ourselves. We can do certain things that previously have been told to us we can't. Part of it, in my opinion, is because people don't get paid if you heal yourself.
True.
Yeah.
And we've all heard of the placebo effect, right?
That's right.
But have you heard of the nocebo effect?
Nocebo, I have not.
Okay, so what the nocebo effect is, it describes the negative effects of doctors' opinions. So basically, if you have a doctor that is like, oh, I'm sorry, like there's nothing we can do. That's like a nocebo effect on the person that's listening to it, because now they have accepted from someone in authority
Yep.
that there's nothing they can do.
That's right. That's when the doctor started telling me all my things. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Don't say that to me. And you could say, oh, you're just putting your head in the mud. I wasn't, because I didn't want my body to hear that. I didn't want to know what the procedure was. I didn't know what any of it was, because I'm not going to go through it. So since it wasn't in my DNA, it wasn't in my mindset, it wasn't in my memory, I couldn't recall it. I couldn't fester over it. I went, sat in my car, placed my hands on my heart, and I started praying. I said, Lord, take this from me. Take this disease from me. This is not mine. And that's what I did. I also went to a spiritual place in the mountains. I worked with some healers that I have here locally, and it changed everything for me.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit more. You recently wrote the book, The 15-Minute Transformation, and what do you have to say about that?
So our words are powerful, right? As a child, I was told I'm ugly, weak, and stupid. If you see me, I'm 6'1", 230 pounds, retired Marine. I have to turn sideways sometimes to get through a door. My shoulders are so wide. I'm not a little man. However, the mindset that was given to me, that I plugged into, that I believed the box somebody else put me into, said you're weak and you're small. So our words are so powerful, we can believe things that are a lie. We believe those lies all the time. You're telling yourself something negative about yourself right now. It's all a lie. So in the 15-minute transformation, one of the things we do is a little bit of breath work, reading affirmations and things of that nature to change the way we think. It takes 7 positive thoughts to erase 1 negative thought. I don't know why we're made up that way. That's just how it is. So in the 15-minute transformation, you're adding something to the system every single day to get yourself to think better.
Yes, it's about that mindset. And when Wes says it takes 7 positive thoughts to, counteract 1, that's such a powerful statement to me, because you have to look at what you're feeding yourself. What are you feeding yourself every day, whether it be through the media, social media, or even just your own mind can be your worst enemy.
Yes, it can. And I struggle to be positive. I have to work on that. I have to, that.
I know.
Listen to that. I know. Yeah. For me, I have things in my past I'm still working on, and I'm okay with that. It's a journey. It's not a race. And we go through this journey, and at the end of the day, our vibration, our thoughts and stuff seep into the cells in our body, and every 90 days we replenish those cells. So if you think about, if however you feel today, you've been that way for a long time, your body is so accustomed to it, shifting that takes a minute. So you got to give yourself some, grace. And it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to shift in 2 seconds, but we can have jumps in 2 seconds. We can jump to that next level, and then we can try to stay there. And more than try, we can stay there when we keep reaffirming things like, I am beautiful, I am gifted, I am loved, I love myself, I love this job, I love this life. Whatever it is that you want to say to yourself, you can shift it and keep it in that gear.
Yeah, and the important thing I want to point out with what Wes just said is, once you start doing this, yes, there may be times when you slip, when your vibration gets low, but the more you do this, the more active you are in watching your thoughts and how you feed yourself, the less time it takes to recover and the less far down that you will go.
Yeah.
And I do want to go back to, I don't want to forget this point, because when you were talking about, I don't know what you were talking about, but
I don't either.
I don't know what you were
talking
talking
about.
about.
I'm talking about half the day.
When we tell ourselves every day, like affirmations, I know you do affirmations every day. I do affirmations every day. I think it's a important part of your daily routine. But one thing that I always say in the morning is I literally say thank you to every cell, tissue, and organ in my body for working tirelessly for me to keep me healthy. And I do think that that has power. Like every cell in your body is a living organism.
Absolutely. You know, they had this thing, you sent it to me, where they held an image of a pitcher up to a glass of water, then they froze that, and the image was in the water, right?
Yeah.
So if the water's alive, you know, we're alive. 80-90% of our body, whatever that is water. So, you know, our words are so powerful. When we say the wrong things, it vibrates through us instantaneously, and it changes things.
Yeah, 100%. And so, I don't know, I keep my episodes pretty short, so I think we're going to wrap this up. But I do want to say, if you want to reach out to Wes, he's at VB Healer on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And your new book is The 15-Minute Transformation, now available on Amazon.
Yes.
And what else? Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad.
Yes, our podcast that Andrea is helping me with, or she's my co-host, is doing very, very well.
All right. Thank you, Wes, so much for joining me today. Everyone go out and get his new book, The 15-Minute Transformation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the How Good It Can Get podcast. Remember, the power to transform your life is within you. So stay mindful, stay empowered, and keep embracing how good it can get.